In this tutorial, we're going to make a rolling text animation in Adobe After Effects, and there are no plugins needed. So let's first start by making a new composition. And for this one, I'm going to make 1920 by 1080. And let's make it 10 seconds long, frame rate of 30, and then press OK. So first we're going to need a text. So take your text tool and then start typing the text you want to use to make a rolling text animation. And with that text, we're going to align it in the align window, which if it isn't visible, if it isn't where you want it to be, you go to window and then check align. And then here I'm going to align my layers to my composition, middle, and now I'm going to make my text a bit smaller because this is a bit too big. Something like this, and then maybe make the spacing between the letters bigger. Something like this, and then I'm going to align it again. Okay. Now, when you have your text, and maybe I will give it another color also because the blue is not what I'm looking for. So when you have your text ready, with the text selected, right-click your layer of your text and then choose Pre-Compose, and you can give it whatever name you want. Now with this pre-compose, let's double-click the pre-composition to go to the pre-composition. As you can see here, it opens in a separate window. So this is my composition and this is my pre-composition. And here I'm going to choose the region of interest button. And I'm going to make a region of interest. And be sure to make it not too big. So it should really be around all your letters. It shouldn't cut them off, but there shouldn't be too much space between the region of interest and your letters, your text. And when you're happy with that, we will go to composition, and here we will choose crop composition to region of interest. Now with this done, we're going back to our composition. So not pre-composition, but the composition. And here we're going to need a layer for every letter we're using. So select your layer, and because I have 2, 4, 6 letters, I already have one. Let's make 5 copies by selecting the layer and then pressing Ctrl or Command D. So now I have 6 layers. You can rename them if you want to know what you're doing. Then you can rename them, and this one would then be G. And go all the layers and rename them as you want them to be. So when you're finished doing that, let's first select our first layer, or in this case it's 6th layer because we made it as the first one. And we're going to select the rectangle tool and make a mask. So you don't need to be too precise on top and bottom, but you have to make sure that you're not including any other letter. So just a mask for the letter you're working on, and we're going to do the same thing for all other letters also. So just select your layer with the rectangle tool, make a mask across your letter without including the other letters. And when you're finished doing that, I'm going to make this a bit bigger so we can see what we're doing. When you're finished making your masks for your letters, you can go to Effects and Presets, and if the Effects and Presets isn't visible, you can go to Window and then select Effects and Presets. And in Effects and Presets, we're going to search for Offset. And then apply the offset to our layer, our 6th layer. And then here we're going to we're going to make a keyframe for the shift center. So make a keyframe, and then with your layer selected, if you press U on your keyboard, you will see your keyframe here. And because it's 10 seconds long, let's move the keyframe to 8 seconds. So just drag it towards the 8 seconds. And then now with offset selected, press Ctrl or Command C, and then select all the other layers, and then press Ctrl or Command V to paste it. The same effect, same preset with your keyframe you just created. Now let's go back to the beginning of our timeline. And at the beginning of the timeline, we're going to change the Y value. And let's go for 2500. And then here you can copy Ctrl Command C to copy that number, and then we're going to paste that same number to the other layers. And first I'm going to press U to see all my keyframes. So my first layer, or layer number 6, has 2500. The layer on top of that won't have it, but the layer on top of that I'm also going to paste 2500, and then the one above it not, and the one above that also 2500. Now for the other layers, I'm going to make a minus 2300 maybe, and then also copy that and copy it to the other layers also. Now as you can see here, we already have a rolling animation, which is what we're looking for. Now with all your keyframes visible, you're going to select all of them and then press F9 to easy ease them. You go to the graph editor, and in the graph editor I'm first going to select the last keyframe and drag it to the front, and then I'm going to select the first keyframe and also drag it to the left like this. So your graph editor should look like this, and then when you close the graph editor, you can now see that it starts quickly and it goes to end slowly. So that's the first step for your rolling text animation, but we can make it a bit better than this. So what we're first going to do is I'm going to go back to the beginning of my timeline, and because the text is visible from the beginning and I don't want it to be visible from the start, I'm going to make a new adjustment layer. So right click in your workspace here and then go to new and choose adjustment layer, and for this one I'm going to search for the CC jaws. And then I'm going to apply the CC jaws to my layer. And then here you just have to make sure that you're in the beginning of your timeline and set the height to 0. And also set the completion, make a keyframe and set the completion to 100%. And then I'm going to go forward like maybe 5 keyframes, something like this. And I'm going to set my completion to 0, and just make sure that your first keyframe is 100%, and then select both keyframes and press F9 to easy ease them. And let's see, so the text appears, well, it appears quite rapidly, but it's not there in the beginning of your animation. So it appears, it's not visible, and then it's suddenly there. But we have moving letters, but there is no motion blur whatsoever, so let's also add a motion blur. And for that we're going to go to effects, and we're going to search for force motion blur, and also apply it to the adjustment layer here. And then in your effect controls, drag the motion blur on top of the CC jaws. Go back to the beginning of your timeline. Well, doesn't really matter, but we're going to set the samples to maybe 20. And if you now preview it, and this can be heavy on your computer because we added the motion blur, it will now be motion blurred, which looks nice for the moving letters. And as you can see, my computer has a bit of an issue with it, but that's normal because we've added a motion blur, so it takes more from your computer. And then now, if you now select all your layers, right click and select pre-compose, and then you can give it whatever name you want. Let's call it rolling text. Press OK. And then here I'm going to add a background because now we don't have a background and I would like a background, so select new and then solid. Maybe we'll take a dark purple background like this. And then make sure you drag it below your text, and just like that you have a rolling text animation with a background, which asks a lot of your computer, but yeah. And then now you can go to File and choose Export and then add to Media, Adobe Media Encoder Q, and you can render your rolling text animation. That was a quick tutorial on how you can make a rolling text animation in Adobe After Effects. Let me know in the comments below if you liked this video. Be sure to press the thumbs up button if you did. Press the subscribe button if you want to see more of my videos. There are new videos going live every week. And for now, thank you for watching my video. Keep creative, and I hope to see you in the next one.